Of course, if the student writes something for us, takes the time to write an essay for us, we are bound to respond in some way. And there's nothing worse than a student giving you a piece of writing and then you giving no feedback. And the student feels like, well, why did I waste my time writing this for you? And so you can use your computer to make comments a lot easier. I'll show you some examples. And of course, error correction as well. And I have some examples of that. The teacher can use a text analyzer just like a student can. And of course, there are some online plagiarism checkers. I don't know about you, but I have problems with plagiarism with my students. This is a screenshot from an online learning platform called Moodle. You're probably familiar with it. If not, you can send me an email and I can give you guest access to my website. You can log in and kind of secretly take a look at what my teachers and my students are doing. It basically divides the course into different weeks or different modules, and for every one you can give your students homework assignments, links to websites, you can write quizzes, you can create chat rooms, and you can upload files. There's an enormous amount of activities that you can do, and this is a platform that I use for my teaching writing course. And I know I have at least one teacher who knows who's in my course. I hope that I can find her this week. Let's see. When it comes to leaving comments, in early drafts of writing assignments, I like to just give comments on content and organization, and I kind of ignore language. I want to make sure that my student has their text kind of together and organized right before we look at language. And so what I do, since I use an online platform for them to submit their assignments, I can type my comments and email it to them. So they get it more quickly, and of course I can write more. This seems like a lot. I have it divided into the different paragraphs of an essay, and for each paragraph I give the student some advice, some comments. Imagine doing this for 20, 25 steps. You can see that it can be a little bit confusing. But what I found is that a lot of my comments are the same. And a lot of students make very similar mistakes and need the same, very similar types of advice. And so I keep a separate document of my most common comments, and I just paste them into the document. Right? Saves them an awful lot of time. When it comes to correcting or making comments on language errors, this is for later drafts of an assignment. This is a screenshot from Microsoft Word. If you have Microsoft Word, you can do this. This is called just the comment feature. And all you have to do is highlight the text, type comment, click on comment, and then a little bubble appears, and you type your comment in the bubble, and then you save it, send it back to the student. I use correction symbols. So for example, WM means word missing, SP means spelling, WC does not mean water closet, actually it means word choice. And then a couple other comments. And so what the student does is, okay, so now I've provided a little bit of scaffolding to help the learner to make corrections, but of course he or she has to do most of the work on his own. And so I pointed out the location and the type of error, and the learner's job is to make the correction. And using Microsoft Word and using email, this is a much quicker, easier process for both teacher and the student. If you're suspicious of plagiarism, which I am all the time, fortunately, because I have a native speaker's intuition, it's very easy for me to spot plagiarism. If a native speaker wrote it, I kind of know. And so if a student gives me something and my native speaker alarm is going off, then it's pretty easy for me. But it's not easy for all teachers of English. If you're not a native speaker yourself, you may not have as finely tuned intuition as a native speaker does. And so if you're suspicious, even if you're not suspicious, it's very easy. Of course, most students, they don't go through the trouble of covering their tracks, and so it's very easy to find something because they probably use Google to get their plagiarism, and so you can use it as well. And just paste it and see what happens. But there are actually several free online plagiarism checkers, 100% free. And all you have to do, when your learners submit their assignment, before you even read it, you can upload the files to the website and it will tell you if it's plagiarized or not. You don't even have to look at it. get an alarm that says this is plagiarized, then you can look at it and you can send it back to the student and say, please do it again. And this time use your own words. All right, so implications for the classroom. There are certainly more examples of genres. And so because of the internet, certainly you have access to an enormous amount of information. And so when you're teaching something, if you're teaching or writing a business letter, or writing a memo, or writing an essay, you can go online and find thousands upon thousands upon thousands of examples that you can use. And of course, showing students examples of what they're writing is a wonderful thing that you can add to the process of writing so that they kind of have an idea of what's expected of them. As far as one-on-one contact between teacher and student, I don't know if you think this is a good thing or not. Sometimes it can be too much of a good thing. I made the mistake of giving my students my Skype ID, and I had to kind of slow them down a little bit because they were contacting me all the time. I mean, it's not necessarily a bad thing if the student knows that she can get in touch with you whenever she wants. You just have to put limits on it and say, not after 10 o'clock in the evening, please. But if you're like me and you meet your students only once a week, I have 2 academic hours a week with them. Between that day and the next, they like having the opportunity to contact me either through the course website or by email. Take advantage of it. And of course, it's a wonderful way for them to practice their English too, as far as writing emails to professors. As far as, of course, autonomy, like we've been talking about today and like we'll continue to talk about, these tools make the students more independent, more autonomous, and as a result, more empowered. When it comes to these editing technologies that we looked at, like for example, Mark Your Words, or any of the others using like the corpus, you can model and scout the use in the classroom, and even create lessons around it, insert it in the process. And then the student can decide, well, do I want to use this myself in my own learning, in my independent learning? And then of course you can just insert the steps into the writing process. You can tell your students, okay, after your first draft, you must use a text analyzer, and you must print your results and include it with your first draft, so that I can see. Right? Or ask the students to use an electronic thesaurus to avoid the overuse of words, to increase more variety, to increase their lexical density, right? The teacher can encourage the use of these technologies while writing comments. So you can say, you often write, I am agree. Use a corpus on the word agree and see what you get. Send them to these things in your comments. You can say, the internet is a big place. Can you find a more reliable source? For example, if the student uses Wikipedia, you may not necessarily trust what the student has found. And I want to see you use a wider variety of words. Lexical density greater than 15%. So in your comments, you can encourage them to use these technologies. All right, so now we're going to move to the internet and how it can help learners to construct identity and how learners can take advantage of skills that they already have and use them in the writing classroom. So Web 2.0, you heard this term before, Web 2.0? In the past, the internet was basically the user got information from the website. But with Web 2.0, the user now is the internet. Right? And so with things like wikis or blogs or social networking sites, the user creates the content. And what this means is that users of the internet now, and our students who are already, I promise you, very good at this, they can participate in a multiplicity of discourses. In other words, the way that they communicate with people through their blog, and the way that they communicate with people through their Contactia page, or on a wiki, is very different. They're very different from each other. Right? I use different language on my blog than I use on my Facebook page. Right? And this is very much like writing, in fact. And they're already really good at this. They're fluent digital writers. They know how to write text. Right? They know the difference between how you use language in an SMS and how you use language in an email. Well, this difference is very similar to the difference between, for example, writing a personal email message and writing a business email message. Or writing an academic paragraph, or writing a creative paragraph. Right? And like I said at the beginning, of course, what you write says a lot about who you are. And of course, your audience is very important. And so what the teacher can do is harness these skills that our learners already have, I promise you. They are natives in the digital landscape, and allow for these skills to complement what they do in the classroom. All right, so I'm going to show you some pictures here. If you are familiar with my website, you have seen this before. This is where teachers and learners can go to download materials. You can get all of my presentations. I keep a journal, a teaching journal there. I have some teaching videos that I upload. Basically, this is just my home for teachers on the internet. A nice little picture of me there. Relatively formal, right? Because I know what my audience is. My audience for this website is generally colleagues. Okay, so what I write here, and the style, the kind of the picture I use, I chose and selected all of it very carefully because of who my audience is. Okay? Let me show you a different website of mine. This is me as well. But it's for a different audience. You may or may not know that I'm a musician, and I write and record music when I have time. I haven't lately, but this is a website where people can go and listen to my music and download my songs. But the audience is different. I don't invite teachers to this website. Right? And so the style is different, the photograph is different, right? Because my audience is different, right? This is me as well. This is my Facebook page. Yeah. Of course, the audience for my Facebook page is different as well, right? The people that see my Facebook profile are very different, usually, than the people who see my website for teachers. And so depending on who my audience is, what I write looks very, very different. You know, just like when you're writing something in a classroom, like an academic essay or a paragraph. You know, who your audience is and what the purpose is always taken into consideration. Now when it comes to things like this, like I said, our learners do it. They're fluent at it, but they may not really realize that these skills are the same that they can use when they're writing in the classroom. So, the teacher can integrate digital writing and academic writing, and enable the students to transfer the skills that they already have to the classroom. You can require them to create a wiki out of their assignments. So Wikipedia is a wiki, and basically just a website that's created and edited by the users. I'm doing this right now in my teaching writing course. I divided my teachers into groups, and their job was to collaborate on a group wiki. I was actually kind of worried about it. I wasn't sure how successful it was going to be, but it's actually been quite successful. They're having a wonderful time with it. You can use that for different assignments and projects. You can create a course website and ask them to post their assignments and leave advice for classmates. You can do this on social networking sites. If you have some web space, or either personal web space or the university has some that it can lend you, you can use one of many different types of content management systems like Moodle for this. If you want advice on this, I can certainly offer it. You can create a companion page on Facebook or Contacte for your learners. You can ask them to keep a blog. And finally, here's a list of links to many of the places that I told you about for text analysis, concordancer. We didn't talk about the concordancer, but it's kind of like a corpus. Check my words, mark my words, etc. Don't feel like you have to write all this down right now, because you can just go here and download it. Thank you very, very much for your attention. I look forward to the rest of the day, the rest of the conference. I feel very fortunate to be here with you today. And I hope that it's useful and interesting, and that you go back to your classroom with wonderful, wonderful ideas that will help your students to be more autonomous. Thank you.